Local Justice, presented by Elrod Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome back to Local Justice. Today we're honored to have with us the Captain of Tribal Police, Mike Ligon. Mike, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, good to see you,
Glad to have
man.
you with us.
Glad
After
to be
more
here.
than 2 decades of serving York County law enforcement, Captain Ligon now leads public safety on the sovereign land and has made great strides in restoring that public safety there. Captain, thanks again for joining us. Really look forward to diving into some topics and having a conversation with you today.
It's good to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. Well, let's start out by just telling us a little bit about who you are and where you grew up. Let's just go through your background.
Yeah, so Mike Ligon. I grew up here, born, raised here in York County, lived here all my life other than when I was in the United States Marine Corps and served there. Got out of service, came back, worked a couple odd jobs, still felt that call of service and calling, so what better way to give back and to serve than be a police officer? And that's kind of what brought me here.
Sure, and so I think you started in Rock Hill, is that right, City of Rock Hill?
I did. I started out as a reserve officer of Rock Hill City, did that for about 6 months and then got hired on full time at York Police Department, where I served 2 years there and then went to work for the York County Sheriff's Office and spent 25 years there. And during that time, I worked on patrol for 3 years with the county, went into narcotics, worked narcotics for 20 years, probably outside of probably Marvin Brown and maybe Rayford Irvin, one of the longest standing people in the county of working dope, was a lieutenant back there for 14 years, was on the SWAT team for 18 and a half years, where I ran that for about 14 as an entry team leader, and then wound up being on K-9 response. And then, of course, my last tour duty there, the last year I was there, I was the admin lieutenant over patrol.
So clearly narcotics was where you found your passion.
It was. You know, you get into the job and, you know, I was kind of, I guess, what you would call an adrenaline junkie, so to speak. And then, you know, you work all those years doing those things, and then, you know, you get in that admin lieutenant position, and you're kind of like, what's my purpose now? You know, what do I want to do? I spent all these years of, you know, chasing all these people, bad guys, all that stuff, you know, putting people in jail. And then you just get to this point, you know, you kind of want to give back. So what do I need to do to give back, you know?
Sure. So after 24 years, I think you had a very brief period of retirement before jumping right into captain of the tribal police role. Is that right?
I did. I retired from the York County Sheriff's Office June the 17th of 2022 and went to work for the tribal police July the 11th of 2022.
And one thing I know from talking to you is that the way you found about this possibility or this connection to this potential tribal police role was through the FBI, I believe, through your involvement with the FBI Academy.
Yes, sir. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy, Session 261. It's kind of like a leadership school that the FBI puts on. It's a 10-week leadership school where those in command positions go and spend 10 weeks and learn to be better leaders. And it's really about networking and things like that. And it just so happened March of 2022, I went to our state conference for our local chapter. And I ran into Sean Butler, who back in November of 2021 was hired on to start and build the police department for the Catawba Nation. So we met through a mutual friend, had some conversations. You know, he's kind of like, what's your deal? What's going on? And I was like, you know, I'm close to retirement. I can retire now, got my time in, and I'm really thinking I want to do something different. And he's like, well, you know, I'm looking for a second in command, and what's your thoughts? And I said, let's talk about it. So a few lunches after we got back, and next thing you know, they make me a job offer, and here I'm at the Nation.
That's right. And so just for the viewers, I guess, education, I think in 1993 there was an act passed, a landmark agreement that I guess put in place the infrastructure that would allow the Catawba Nation to have their own independent police department. And then I think in 2022, with you being brought onto that role, is really when it was actually built off the ground. Is that right? Yes,
sir. So the 1993 land settlement agreement through the tribe and the federal government basically gave the tribe the right to have the tribe to have its own police force, and if it ever chose to do so, what would take place was we would get our arrest powers through the sheriff's office. So the sheriff would cross-deputize us to give us our arrest power. So we are Class 1 state law enforcement officers, and our arrest powers come through the sheriff's office at this point in time.
And prior to 2022, before the tribal police department was kind of up and running, I think the York County Sheriff's Office, and you probably in your role there, spent a lot of time on the reservation, and that was pretty much the primary police avenue there.
So what happened after the 1993 land settlement agreement, the tribe actually paid the York County Sheriff's Office to have 4 officers there. In fact, when I come to the Sheriff's Office, I used to work with those officers there, Larry Bauer, Captain Cornwell, who at the Sheriff's Office, you know, he was a deputy back then, Jeff Cornwell, Pete Reinders, all those guys were actually either tribal citizens or of a tribal household, and so they went and worked directly with the community there. Some things changed, and then those jobs kind of got absorbed back through the Sheriff's Office, and the Sheriff's Office still provided service, but it wasn't like that right there, boots on the ground in close proximity on the reservation all the time.
Right. And I'm sure from the reservation standpoint, the Sheriff's Office was very much still viewed as outside of the reservation versus now there's an internal force that kind of is part of the community.
Yes, and that's a lot of the battle we had after the 1993 land settlement agreement was you'd go down there and the first thing tribal citizens would say was, oh, well, you ain't got no authority down here. We're federally recognized now, you know. But what they failed to realize, it was written in the 1993 Land Settlement Act that the tribe would still fall under all state and local laws and county ordinances. So that part still was intact at that time.
That's right. Well, since 2022, I know we've made great strides under your leadership in restoring justice to this community and bringing about a much easier path and access to justice for everyone there. And look forward to diving into some of those topics a little more. We're going to take a short break from our sponsors, but stay tuned in. We'll be right back to local justice shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not gonna have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Being there for someone in their time of need is what Green Funeral Home has done compassionately for 4 generations. It's a privilege we take very seriously.
We believe each life should be honored and remembered by family and friends. Whether you choose traditional burial in our chapel or another venue, or cremation provided by our on-site crematory, we will help guide you through each step to ensure your needs are met.
We are also available to discuss pre-planning. Peace of mind that you have helped your loved one by making those difficult decisions.
When the need arises, our family is here for your family.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Live Strong at the YMCA is a lifesaver for so many people.
I love Live Strong because you meet so many people, you learn how strong you can be physically and mentally.
The camaraderie and the closeness that you feel and come together as a group is just amazing.
We meet them where they are, and we work with them to help them get stronger.
At the YMCA of Upper Palmetto, we are proud to offer our community the support of the Live Strong program to all cancer survivors. For more information, visit your local branch.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm honored to be here with Captain Mike Ligon of the Catawba Nation Police Department. Captain Ligon, thanks again for being with us. Yeah. Honored to have you here today. Want to dive right back in. You know, policing in a sovereign tribal community is a lot different than where you spent a lot of your career here in York County. And I think there's a cultural component to it that I think you've got a great grasp on that I'd love to hear you shed some more light on, just the unique cultural aspect and the understanding it takes from your end to be able to help folks trust you and be able to provide justice in that community.
Right. So when you deal with indigenous cultures, there's a lot of cultural trauma there. Just a lot of mistrust, a lot of, they do not trust the government. They do not trust government entities just because of things that have happened culturally throughout history.
Sure.
So it's really about like getting in. For us, it's a COPS approach, a community-oriented policing approach at its grassroots. I mean, we get out. I mean, it's shaking hands, kissing babies, being involved in our senior center, being involved with our teen center, going through to our Head Start schools where they're from infant all the way up to first grade before they actually get ready to go into public schools here, which aren't, necessarily tribal. And so it's really trying to understand that culture and just trying to build that trust and gain the trust of the community that has for so long been untrusting of law enforcement and other entities.
And it seems like a lot of that is really just going back to the basics, the boots on the ground. I've seen you, showing up at the child care center there and then, making the rounds basically, spending time with the people in the community.
Yep, and that's what we do, and that's what, that's one of the biggest expectations of our officers is to be involved in the community. Whether it's, the Yapi Ishwa Festival that we are at every year, whether it's our, our basketball thing that our, that our health services and stuff puts on. We try to be at every community event. If myself or Sean is not there, we make sure that our officers are there, and we have a police presence at all of these events, and a very warming police presence.
Sure. And I know, jurisdiction is probably an issue y'all have to deal with frequently, whether it's, on or off reservation property and the different circumstances that kind of give rise to jurisdictional challenges. Could you just give us kind of a brief summary of, where the jurisdiction of your department starts and stops in terms of, if somebody commits a crime on the reservation, do y'all have the ability to work with agencies outside that reservation to collaborate to try to seek justice, or are you somewhat limited by the lines?
So we are limited in regards to, even though we are cross-deputized through the Sheriff's Office, and we get our authority to our arrest powers through the Sheriff's Office. Our cross-deputization agreement still limits us to the reservation. But with that being said, those partnerships that we have, I mean, Sean Butler, who is our executive director of public safety / chief of police, he's smart. I've grown up, I've lived here all my life. I have a lot of great connections, and coming from the Sheriff's Office, I left there on very good terms. So we're able to work with, whether we have somebody who's an offender and they wind up being in the city with Rock Hill City, and again, the relationships we have there with Rock Hill City, with the county, really every jurisdiction, because actually our lieutenant is actually a retired police officer from Fort Mill. Will Reap, he was a captain at Fort Mill, and he retired and come to work for us. So our collaborative efforts span throughout the county, and that is really what makes it possible for us if we have an offender that commits a crime on the reservation and they don't either live on the reservation or they say flee out of our jurisdiction, which is isolated to the reservation. All we have to do is call the county, or call the city, and we go out with their officers. We can lock this person up, or they lock the person up for us, and You know, we have agreements with York County Detention where any of our prisoners are housed there, and we have agreements right now until we get our court systems up and running. We have agreements with York County courts to be able to get our warrants, to hear our cases where there's traffic, where there's any misdemeanors that we may make there on the reservation. All those cases are heard at the York County Magistrates Court. So it's a great collaboration.
Absolutely, and I've always been so impressed just after speaking with Chief Watts and Sheriff Breeden. I mean, the sense of collaboration just amongst all these various agencies in our community. Y'all all seem to be clicking on all cylinders and working together as well as possible, which I know makes your job a lot easier.
Oh, a lot easier. I mean, anytime you can collaborate with other officers, other agencies, or other people and you have a common goal of serving a community, whether it's our tribal community, whether it's the community of York County and Rock Hill, things like that. I mean, anytime that you can collaborate and everybody gets along well and plays nice in the same sandbox, that's always a plus. I mean,
Sure.
that's what we all strive for.
Sure. And the thought of getting a court system up and running is quite an overwhelming task in and of itself. Is the ultimate goal is to try to be as independent as possible and self reliant as possible while
As
still
sovereign.
collaborating.
To try and be as sovereign as possible.
Sovereign as possible.
That's part of the nation's sovereignty. They want to have their own court system. They want to have their own courts. What's so unique about that is that if we get somebody who's not tribal, and even someone who's tribal, it can be held in our court once they're up and running for misdemeanor charges and stuff. And if they choose not to have it heard, it can always be moved to the York County venue. But the biggest part is for tribal citizens to be able to have their cases heard in tribal court, and that amount of sovereignty to where, working on the model of restorative justice. And people talk about it, and I know we have a short period of time, but just briefly, restorative justice really allows the community to have say-so in what, somebody who's an offender, and the victim has a lot of say-so in what happens with that offender. And even the offender has some say-so in what their case is, but the weight of what the community wants to see on that offender and the victim, it weighs a huge part. And restorative justice is a unique thing. And for us, I mean, it's like everything else with the agency. We're learning every day. We're writing it as we go. And the courts, I know, are going to be continuing to write that as they go. It's definitely a learning curve.
Sure.
It's definitely an exciting learning curve. But it's like we tell our officers every day they come to work, we can make this what we want to make it. The nation and the tribe can make this court what they want to make it. So that's what's so unique about all this. And we're still ultimately in our infancy phases, but just to what this can be down the road is it's really cool. It's really amazing.
That's fascinating, and I can sense just the passion that comes from you about it too, which is great to see. And we're going to take another short, brief break from our sponsors, but we'll be right back to dive right back into some more pressing issues facing Catawba Nation. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door, from Main Street to your street. All it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
When it comes to prescription medications and health needs, Rock Hill residents have been turning to Good Pharmacy for over 50 years.
I've been coming to Good Pharmacy since we came to Rock Hill in 1984, and I would not change pharmacists for anything.
With their knowledgeable staff, you can always trust that your prescription will be filled with complete confidence and care for your health. Good Pharmacy, conveniently located at the corner of Ebenezer Road and Camden Avenue.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Hi, I'm John Warden with Champion Services. If you're considering remodeling or making repairs to your home due to storm damage, here's a few things to ponder. A lot of folks have come in town promising a lot of things about we've been here for a long period of time, only to be found faults. Choosing the right contractor is extremely important. Here at Champion Services, our goal is one thing, it's customer satisfaction. And that's just not a sentence, that's a fact. Let me say it's been a joy to serve you for over 30 years. This message is brought to you by Champion Services and CN2.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm here with Captain of Tribal Police of the Catawba Nation, Mike Ligon. Mike, thanks again for being with us. Been a pleasure to have you on the show, and look forward to continuing the conversation. You know, one of the issues I know is really devastating York County is the drug fentanyl. It's been an ongoing problem for a number of years here, and I've spoken with some other law enforcement leaders about some progress that's been made on that front, but it sounds like at the same time there's new substances that are popping up left and right, and tranquilizers, and you know, but for Narcan, you know, it seems like this impact would be far more significant. How is drug use, specifically fentanyl, impacting Catawba Nation, and are you seeing any positive trends or signs? Well,
It's just like anything else. It's so impactful for us because it's such a small community.
Sure.
And again, you're dealing with issues on the tribe that, you know, you have a lot of cultural trauma, you have a lot of trauma just in general with this generation, with the and prior generations, to where it has caused substance abuse, whether it's been alcohol, whether it's drugs, things of that nature, to where we have tribal citizens trying to cope with different types of trauma through illegal substances. And so, you know, with us, the fentanyl, you know, it has been a problem. And working drugs, you know, on the reservation, you know, the years that I did, the drug problem is significant, and it hits harder there just because of it being such a smaller community.
Sure.
And when we do have an overdose, it's just so much more impactful to that community, especially when it's a tribal citizen, just because everybody knows everybody. So what's unique is we actually have a Narcan vending machine.
Wow.
There on the reservation for tribal citizens. They can go, you know, it's inconspicuous. It's not, you know, anything that we keep tabs on, like, okay, who's getting Narcan, things like that. And there's an anonymity to it. But what we found is having that, it has actually, we've seen a reduction in our drug overdoses.
Wow.
And there are some people who don't necessarily agree with the giving out of free Narcan and stuff, but with us, it's more about, you know, we may not know every life that it's saved, but we have seen a reduction in overdoses in general on the reservation. So obviously it's doing something,
Sure.
right? And at this point in time, you know, if we can save a life, let's save a life. You know, it doesn't matter what means it's taken. And there's still probably a lot of things out there that we're not even seeing or catching stat-wise because, you know, if they are using Narcan, it's causing less medical calls, you know, things of that nature. Or
Sure.
if there is a medical call, generally we don't hear it because they have been Narcan and then they refuse medical treatment. So we don't get that information just because of the legality of those issues. But, you know, we do face there on the reservation a huge drug problem. It's getting better. The drug unit works with us very close. They do a great job anytime we have any issues or any problems of passing that information along to them and them dealing with it. They've predominantly, over the past few years, and I guess even with me coming there and coming from the drug unit and still knowing a lot of those guys that work on the drug unit and some of them even that work for me, they understand the issues that we have and they're more than willing to come and help. So it really, really has kind of come back threefold to, helping the nation and with the issues we do have when it comes to drugs.
Absolutely, and just your background specifically, the 20 years in the thick of the narcotics team, I mean, I think that sets up perfectly for you to be the person that can help attack this problem head on and, have a lot of experience dealing with the aftermath of.
I do have the experience, but again, it's those boots on the ground. I mean, if I've got to get involved, I'll get involved, but I really haven't had to. Again, knowing the players and some of the players that are still there when I was, quote unquote, in the game of narcotics, a lot of it has really calmed down. But again, I think that's due to the efforts that have been put forth through the drug unit and our collaboration with them and the information sharing and how well they've attacked that for us. I can't take credit for that.
Sure.
I don't think we can as an agency. I think collaboratively we can take credit for that, but I really have to give that credit back to the drug unit because anytime we call, they come.
And I think, you mentioned the impact of one death can be so significant in such a small community like that. I think the positive is also that the impact of good things that are being done can also, in programs that are being implemented, can be immediately felt too and seen. And just something as simple as that vending machine, saving 1, 2, 3 lives. I mean, that makes all the difference in the world for a community like that.
Of course, and we also have other programs through our behavioral health services and even our family service, victim services. There's so much federal money there for the tribal citizens to help them. I mean, I can't tell you since I've been there in the 3 years, the number of lives that have been touched by those services. Not all outcomes are success stories, but I do know of 3 success stories, one that I was directly involved in that have happened. And, these programs, being able to send these citizens off for treatment. They have an IOP where, people with substance abuse problems are able to come in and get counseling and all these things, and just the money that's there to assist the tribal citizens if they have these types of these problems, and it's not just the drugs, it goes back to our victim services,
Sure.
Our victims of crimes and stuff, how our victim services is able to do things for tribal citizens who maybe they need to be relocated because they're in a bad situation. Our family services, dealing with our tribal children and things like that, and ICWA, that's a whole nother segment there, but our family services does a phenomenal job of stepping in to help families maybe if they don't have food, if they need housing, getting all these things. It's just amazing the amount of money that, or the amount of service, and I'm not gonna say money, but the amount of services that the tribe is able to provide to its citizens if they're willing to take advantage of it.
Sure, and probably using limited resources too.
Yes.
It's
Very
impressive
limited.
what y'all do with what you have to work with.
Yes, very limited.
Well, Captain Ligon, thank you so much for your service, your time here today, and your leadership in helping move the Catawba Nation towards a modern, community-centered, police department that really establishes a great public safety foundation for years to come.
Well, I appreciate that, Ben, and just to add, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the leadership of Chief Butler, Sean Butler, our Executive Director of Public Safety. He does a phenomenal job. There's a lot of stuff that, we've become more the face of the agency, but there's a lot of stuff that Executive Director Sean Butler does behind the scenes to make it possible for us to be able to do the things that we do.
Absolutely. It all starts at the top, and your work's a great reminder that justice isn't just about law enforcement. It's about having a presence in the community, having partnerships, and really working with purpose, which you clearly do. So thanks again for being with us. That's it for today for Local Justice. Thank you so much to Captain Ligon for joining us. We'll see you next time, and hope everyone takes care and stays safe out there.